We're very happy to host Professor Markey here at the IIC with Carnegie India. Thank you so much for coming.
Happy to be here.
And he just spoke to us about China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, and we're catching up with him again to get some more details on it and your viewpoints on the topic.
Sure.
So just to start off, and very straightforward question: what, in your mind, according to you, is CPEC, and what is the logic behind CPEC? Is it purely commercial? Is it purely strategic driven, or is it a good balance and a mix of both?
Right. So the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor is a set of principally economic efforts, infrastructure development efforts within Pakistan. But it's really being driven, I believe, by a broader strategic and security-based rationale. And the logic behind it is, from a Chinese perspective, that investments in Pakistan in things like major energy projects and roads, pipelines, rail lines, these kinds of things can spur economic growth and then contribute over the longer term to peace and stability in China's western region. And this looks very much like what China has attempted to do inside its own western provinces. And a similar logic is prevailing, I think, and driving Beijing to do something similar inside of Pakistan.
Right. So what kind of implications do you see this project having on the region in South Asia, and what do you think, how should India look at it? I mean, is it something that we can probably say it's an opportunity, growth for South Asia, connectivity, is that something India itself is trying to work on, or is it purely a threat based?
Right. So, I mean, the implications in many ways depend on exactly how it rolls out. So, in my experience and speaking with Chinese officials, many of them are very eager to explain that CPEC and more broadly what China is calling One Belt, One Road, its broader agenda, is not exclusive and is intended to contribute to regional economic integration and is not oriented against anyone and shouldn't be perceived as a threat.
Okay.
And if this is actually true, and if there's a great transparency in their efforts, if other countries are invited to participate, then I think India and other countries in the region shouldn't see it as a threat. Because economic growth in Pakistan can be beneficial to India. To see Pakistan suffer and to deteriorate, particularly as it faces the likelihood of a significant population growth over the next few decades, if those people don't have jobs, if they don't have opportunities, if they don't have education, then they will be, I think, that much more threatening, not just to Pakistan, and not just to India, but more widely to the world.
Right.
So this is a positive thing. On the flip side, it's also true that one of the aspects that China is investing in is, for instance, Gwadar Port, a port on the Arabian Sea. And it would be strange to see India not have some qualms about increasing Chinese naval presence in the Arabian Sea. And so it will be a balancing act. I think there's a greater positive side in the short term, and over the long run, a lot of it depends on what kind of a China we see. And a China that is increasingly conflict-prone or competitive will be a problem, not just in Pakistan, but beyond that as well. Yeah.
You mentioned it's going to depend on how the project rolls out. So on that note, how viable is this project in it materializing, given the security challenges or the political challenges in Pakistan, as well as China's own reputation of having not its implementation connectivity project, because it's got quite a bit on its plate right now. So
yes, so implementation will undoubtedly be a mixed bag. But I think we should be careful not to write it off immediately and say this will never work. A number of Chinese initiatives inside of Pakistan are already happening. And in my own research and efforts to go to Pakistan and talk to people who are involved at the provincial level as well as in Islamabad, it is clear that the military and civilian leadership are completely on board with what they're calling these early harvest projects. Projects that are intended to be completed within the next year or so. There's a political desire by the current civilian government to show that it can actually make these things happen. And the military is also eager to demonstrate both to itself and to, that is within the military, and to China, that it can be a partner in helping to develop Pakistan. So near term, this is real, this is happening, this is not just a sham. But that's only a fraction of the overall, people are describing $46 billion over 15 years. And the longer term prospects depend a lot on how local communities inside of Pakistan, including different provinces, different ethnic groups, how they respond. And at the moment, this is still an open question. Some of them will see that these projects, say Waterport, are actually in the national interest. But at the local level, it's not clear that Baloch nationalists will also see that as in their local interest. That's where the divisions, some of them will be.
So like you mentioned, the sentiment on ground is a bit different. The public, the local perception of this project and how they're receiving it.
Right. So generally, say in Islamabad, the official and kind of establishment view is very positive.
Right.
You won't find anyone who has serious qualms about CPEC.
What about the local public?
But at the local level, some of it depends on their relationship, which is a long-standing relationship with the federal government.
Right.
So in places where people perceive that Islamabad is not working in their interests, this will be yet another case where they have questions with the federal government, problems with the federal government even.
Sure.
In some instances, they can be bought off,
either
in a good way, that is, the government and the Chinese can demonstrate that what they're doing actually benefits local communities. And there's also the bad way of buying people off, that is actually just effectively bribing local officials to make these things happen. Both of them are possible.
Okay. So finally, just the last question, how do you see CPEC fit in the larger One Belt, One Road initiative, and how important is it for China for CPEC to succeed, to lend some credibility to OBOR, which still, regardless of how ambitious it is, there's a bit of ambiguity and lack of clarity surrounding the project.
So right now, CPEC is considered to be the flagship project within One Belt, One Road. And so at a political level and in terms of the way that people talk about it in Beijing, it's incredibly important because this is a signature agenda item for the president of China. So when he says that he's going to do something, everybody else scurries to make it happen. And so they have a lot of kind of political capital and prestige on the line to make this happen in Pakistan. My view, however, is you could still have significant progress and efforts on the rest of One Belt, One Road if the effort in Pakistan were to stall. So that's still possible. But I think everybody in Beijing is on board to try to make this happen. And that's a lot of energy, a lot of resources, a lot of attention. So we should not bet against it at this point.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank
you so
you
much once again for this conversation.
Thank you. Pleasure talking.